to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. My guest today is Ginna Christensen, and Ginna has gone through quite a journey to find her calling. But before we meet her, I want to say to you, if you are listening in real time, happy freaking 2021. I mean, right? We did it. We made it out of 2020. Of course, it hasn't all been bad, but the things that were bad were really bad. There's no sugarcoating that, right? Lives were lost. Lives were taken. People lost their jobs, people lost their hope, and people struggled to find their footing in everything that has happened physically, emotionally, politically, and socially around us and to us. So if you experienced one or many of these things, I'm sending you white light and healing energy for your mind, body, and soul. And of course, there were good things too. Our industry, for example, so many of us have had the biggest growth that we've had in years. Others have spent more time with their core family members than they have also in years. Who knew it? We learned to be Zoom experts, right? And the thing is, we learned that we are resilient and that we can adapt and adjust, and we can put on our big girl and our big boy panties and get on with it and get up and get back in the game. So I'm sending a big, huge virtual hug from me to you. And here's to 2021 and to it being a better year every day in every way. Secondly, to help ensure that 2021, your business is better than ever, today is the very last day for early bird registration for LuAnn Live. It's about the conversation. This event will be a one-of-a-kind event for the industry. I've told you this. It is not going to be your average Zoom meeting. Just trust me on this. Okay, check out the website to see the roster of speakers. And I want to give a big shout out to East End Interiors for being our exclusive VIP experience sponsor. Thanks so much to Sal and Enza and their entire team. Go to LuAnnLive.com to learn more and to get in on the early bird goodies. All right. So Ginna Christensen. Ginna started her career in the fashion industry, working in merchandising and marketing, and then transitioned to art and interiors, where she climbed the corporate ladder, eventually landing a role of VP of Sales and Product Development in the rug business. Then she was forging deals with companies like Pottery Barn and Williams & Sonoma Home. She continued in the corporate world as a creative director at Woven, and eventually she was asked to join the West Hollywood Design District Board in 2016, where she spent 2 years as chairwoman and helped reform the board. Throughout her entire career, Ginna, however, was longing for something else. She excelled in her roles, but deep down, part of her felt like she was just going through the motions. She says to us she felt like she was living on other people's terms. Eventually, in 2017, Ginna launched her own business, GC Collaborative, which started as a boutique consulting firm and has now transitioned into business coaching for designers and creatives. Her specialty lies in helping creatives identify their differentiating points in the marketplace and becoming standouts in their field. Today, Ginna is going to share with us the importance of uncovering your values so that you can lay the foundation for your business, the process she uses to do that with her clients, and how you can incorporate your values into various aspects of your business. I'm very happy and delighted to share this conversation with you today. Hi, Ginna. Thank you so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, LuAnn. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Ginna, I'm really glad that we're finally getting to do this. We met each other a year ago at Business of Home event,
Yeah,
right? So when I say a year
that's
ago,
right.
that was September 2019. Feels like, I don't know, September 1919, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Oh my goodness. But
absolutely.
we found each other at the same round top, trying to like jockey for space to eat some lunch. And we just sort of hit it off pretty fast, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that was such a great event too.
Yeah, good time. Always a good time to get together with real life people, real life people, right? Ah,
Hopefully we'll get to do that again
I
soon.
know, I know, I know. But the thing is, you intrigued me right off the bat at that event. You're a smart lady. You're a leadership expert. You're a website leadership expert, strategist, connector, business coach. And you come from this amazing background. And I've been reading about you and talking to you about your background in the industry and brand development and message development and as a creative director. And you're kind of bringing this all together now and kind of putting all of those superpowers and experiences together. And now you're actively coaching creatives, designers, and creatives on, I guess, just getting some real clarity once and for all in who they are and what they do and how they do it, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. I love on your website that you had the sentence, why fit in when you were born to stand out? So that
Yep.
sounds like, a pretty foundational principle and something very core to you. You want to talk to us about that and about how you approach your work with working with designers?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so glad you love that quote because it really is one of my favorite, and that's by Dr. Seuss of all people. But I the reason I'm so attracted to that uh quote is like for me myself, many years of my career, actually most of my career, I want to say the first 10 years, I was completely miserable. You
Mm.
know, I was listening to what everyone told me I should be doing, how I should be doing it. And I just felt really uncomfortable and not happy, and I had had the experience of being able to watch some people who really loved what they did. I had a roommate who was a musician, and I would watch him and his bandmates like work until 4 o'clock in the morning, mixing sound and doing all this. And I thought, I want to know what that feels like, right?
Mm.
And the thing that I started to uncover as the desire grew for me to really enjoy what I was doing for a living, was that I didn't want to be like everybody else. So I did not want to listen to what everyone told me that I should do. I wanted to figure out my own path. And so my work now really is based on the experience that I went through of discovering for myself how to move from blending in, not really doing anything that was exciting to me, to really transforming my career into something that I'm incredibly proud of. Have done incredibly creative, risk taking work with famous artists, with some of the biggest designers in the country, and have spearheaded, new programs that didn't exist before. And that to me was really exciting. And what I hope to do with my work really is to just help, other creatives understand that there's nothing special about me. I just figured out a way to do this, and I can show you how to do it too.
Hmm. So let me ask you a couple of questions before we get into how you do it and what types of questions
Sure.
and things that we need to be, sitting with ourselves in order to get to this. When you described that the first 10 years of your career that you were unhappy and uncomfortable, just to put it into context, was it literally the grind, like every day going to work, walking in, knowing you weren't happy? Or was it more looking at your friends in contrast and seeing joy and just thinking, I'm not joyful? I'm working. This is a good job. This is a good career. But man, they're really having a good time. Like, which was it? Was it total cognitive understanding of this is not what I'm supposed to be doing? Or was it just, oh, I didn't realize I was supposed to be happy in my work and they are, and I want that?
That's such a great question because I think in the beginning, I was unconscious.
Mm,
Like I knew something felt uncomfortable, but I wasn't exactly sure what it was.
yes.
Like it's now in looking back that
Hindsight,
I
right?
see, yeah, yeah, that I was instead of listening to myself, again, I was doing things the way other people told me to, which didn't like fall in alignment with who I am. Like there was it's killing me that I can't remember her name, but you did a podcast. I don't know. It's been a while back now, with a woman who talked about, if you're an introvert, you can still be a salesperson and a marketer,
Mm,
and
probably
I
Judith
remember
Taylor. Probably
that's
Judith Taylor.
so, and I just thought, oh my God, like she's talking about the same thing. Like you don't have to be like someone else in order to be successful. You can
Ah,
be who you are. And not only can you be who you are, but it's vital to your success.
right,
Because I view success not just by making a lot of money, because you can make a lot of money and be miserable.
right,
That to me isn't success.
right.
Success to me is being fulfilled, feeling like you're doing something that matters to you and making money.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's true. It's so true. Okay, so because sometimes that is the case where you describe where it's a hindsight revelation of,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, it wasn't horrible. I wasn't like, taking the train every day, cursing the streets under me, but there's just this feeling of, was I meant to do something else, or should I do something else, or what is it that it's just not, yay, I can't wait to get there, right?
Well, can I tell you a little story,
Yes.
which I think also explains this? So, when I was a kid, both my parents, by the way, were entrepreneurs. My dad worked in the woodworking business. He had a company that made wood molding for the picture frame and furniture industry. And my mother was a dancer and had a dancing school,
Mm,
with like 1,000 kids. So they were both really successful and creative, right?
yes.
However, it was really interesting, because as I grew up, my parents did not encourage me to start my own business or to do creative work. In fact, when I was a kid dancing, and I mean, my mom used to, we lived I was born in Bay Ridge, in Brooklyn. That's where my mom's dance studio was. Took dance class there every day after school. In the summer, she'd bring me into Manhattan and I'd go to a professional class with her. I think I was the only kid in the class and the
Wow.
only kid allowed.
Wow.
And so here was this thing that I loved. And it was the first time, if I think back, like it almost makes me want to cry because it was the first time like I felt confident,
Mm.
and I really loved what I was doing. However, my mom pulled me aside. I was somewhere between the ages of 7 and 10. I remember being in her dancing school. She was listening to some new records, getting ready for the year. And I'm dancing around, I'm just playing, dancing around, as she's listening to the records. And she stops the record and walks over to me and has a very serious look on her face. And she kneels down so that her face is in my face.
Mm.
And she says to me, Ginna, you're never to be a dancer. Because if you're to be a dancer, you won't have enough money for food. You won't have enough money for rent.
Wow.
And then she turns me to a poster that's hanging on the back of the dancing school wall, which is a Harvey Edwards poster. And the images of a ballerina in fifth position, mid plie. She's photographed from the leg down, and her leg warmers are torn,
Yes, I
and
know the
her ballet
photograph.
slippers, yeah,
Yeah.
are covered in duct tape. She points to that and says, "You won't even have enough money for a decent pair of ballet slippers."
Oh my gosh.
So, and listen, it
Ginna,
sounds
I'm
horrible.
shocked.
I know, right? I
She was
know that she had
protecting
good
you. I know
intentions.
she was
Of course.
protecting you,
Of
but
course.
that's
It's
crazy.
brutal.
At
I know.
7. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe at 17. Like,
Yeah.
okay, sweetie, you're not going to Juilliard. Let's face the music here. But at 7?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
So what happened is I internalized that idea. Like I
Yes.
internalized that so deeply
Yes.
that I didn't allow myself ever to do anything creative. Like I always still like when I got out of college, I mean, I was an art history major. Okay. I wasn't an art major. I was an art history major.
You
I
have to have the
stayed close
practical
to the
side.
creativity. Yeah. Um, And when I graduated college, I moved to New York and I worked in the fashion industry, but I worked in sales.
The
You
smart,
know,
the tactical side, the thing that you could depend on. If you worked hard, you made money. Not like somebody, if you created a beautiful dress, maybe somebody bought it, maybe somebody didn't, right? The
exactly,
concrete
exactly.
side.
The problem is that what I really wanted to be was a creative.
That's crazy.
So I wasn't wearing the right uniform. Like I was wearing somebody else's outfit that
Right,
was not meant for
right,
me.
right, right, right.
So I think that's really where the unhappiness came from, but I didn't realize it, and I probably wasn't ready to recognize it yet.
Right, 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 right. So it's so crazy. I had there's an interview, and I don't know as we're recording this if it's before or after yours on air, right? But with Jude Charles. So if you're listening now, Jude Charles, he's been on the show already, as we are, he's definitely on air already on my podcast, but he has come back. And Jude Charles is he specializes in creating videos for entrepreneurs, for companies that tell your story, that tell your brand story. And what he does is he asks you all kinds of questions to get to the heart of who you are and what makes you tick. And so in the interview that either has just aired as we're talking or is yet to be aired, he basically on air does it with me, like with no prep. He just says, okay, if you were my client, these are the questions I would start. And he pulls apart and asks you different things from your childhood and what is this? And so if he might have said, and how did that make you feel? And what did you think? And what did you do? And blah, blah, blah. Right. And it's just, I can't help but hear your story and understand and make that connection to how those little moments that really do they really do impact the way you show up in the world. I mean, you here's your mom making a living as a creative.
Right.
Like
Right.
she was making a living. 1,000 students is not like this struggling, like dance
Right.
business.
Right.
But she took that message out of that, and instead of saying, yes, you're a beautiful dancer and you can make a living, and maybe you'll be a prima ballerina, or maybe you'll own the dance school. Either way, follow your passion, right? Like she took it the other way, and she wanted to save you from that. And but all of it's part of your journey, right, Ginna? Like you don't take any of that back. You don't regret any of that because it all creates who you are today. Do you agree?
Oh, 1,000%.
Right?
And the interesting thing is, like, I want to say it was about 12 years ago, I was at a panel discussion where one of the women that was on the panel talked about, if you're having trouble finding your purpose, look back to a traumatic event that happened to you when you were young. And I thought to myself, traumatic event?
Yes.
I didn't have anything traumatic happen to me until, when I was young. And I'm like at home, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh my God, that's my traumatic event.
It's so true.
So it's really interesting now that what I do is support other creatives in helping them to make their dreams come true.
It's
because
so true.
I believe in the power of creativity. I believe that's what's going to save us all. Like that's what makes the world a better place.
Yeah. And it's funny because now I have to say another interview with Angela Kristen Taylor. She literally bases her coaching on locating that traumatic event. Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. So that's another great interview to listen to. So, okay. So now, it brings you to who and what you are, and you go through your corporate stint and you work in the fashion places and the creative director and brand manager and all the big fancy corporate things and selling and moving and shaking. And now you work with designers and you help them uncover these things and help them step into, what they were born to stand out to be. How do you do it, Ginna? What is the process? So not every designer listening is going to be able to have the luxury of working with you. Of course, many do and many will after they hear you today, I'm sure. But for the designers listening that are not going to have this benefit and this luxury, are there some questions, some exercises, some things that we can share to help them work through this process?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, one of the things I'm just thinking about what would be the most valuable thing to share. And one of the things that I work on with all of my clients is really uncovering what their values are. And the reason that we go into what their values are is because your values really help you make the right decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And another thing that we look at, and this is really important for people to kind of take the time to really think about, again, when they're making decisions, are they making decisions from fear, or are they making decisions that are steeped in their values?
Mm.
Because of a lot of us, we don't even realize that we're doing it. We make decisions from fear.
It's so true and powerful, because understanding what your values are is sort of another way to say decide what your mission and vision and core values are, right? Like, you have to
Yeah.
get clear with who you are. And your point in this is your how you make your decisions is because that is what it is. If it's in on one hand, as a human being, right? It's lofty, and I don't mean that negative. I mean it real. Like, it's lofty. It's like, if my core, if my values are integrity, then when I'm tempted to walk out because the waitress didn't give me a check, like, then what is your core value? It's like you don't even think about it. Like, that's what I wanted to express is when somebody like Ginna says, if you understand what your values are, it helps you make your decisions. It's that sort of a thing. You don't sit there and wonder and debate. And of course, that's an easy example because most of us are not going to walk out on that check, right? But when it's a harder decision in your business, it's, well, does this align with what I said my mission and my values were? And if it doesn't, then all of a sudden, no matter how shiny, how pretty, how attractive, how lucrative it might be, if it doesn't fit, it's just a no, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I love that you use the example of it doesn't matter how shiny
You're
or
right.
lucrative it is, because I call that the shiny carrot syndrome,
Right.
that's being dangled out in front of us. And if we're not clear, just as you said, we're going to follow that carrot. And then 2 months later, be like, what the heck am I doing here? This is not where I wanted to go.
Exactly. It's be careful
Right.
what you wish for, right? It's like that whole
Yeah.
thing, right? But I find that, like, I find that number one, most entrepreneurial people, which is every self employed interior designer out there, we're not usually with a lack of ideas, creative ideas for growing our business or running our business or taking our business to another level. But what it is it's cultivating the discipline to really, as you said, make your decisions within your values so that you don't wake up in 10 years running somebody else's design firm and not your own ideals, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So
Correct.
so go ahead, take
Correct.
us through it.
So another reason that understanding your values is so important is, like, one of the things I find when I do this exercise with clients is, like, there's so much, like, there hidden jewels hidden in your values
Mm.
for content creation, for understanding how to speak to your clients, not just making decisions.
Mm.
And one of the things that I have also found, and that this happened with a client of mine a couple of years ago, where when we found that we want to make a decision, like this particular client, she had decided she wanted to move offices. She had her office was perfectly fine. It was a little small. It was near her house. It was affordable, but it didn't really represent who she was as a brand.
Mm.
It wasn't the architecture of the building, the quality of the building that she was in wasn't on the level of the quality of work she was doing. So she really wanted to move. She wound up finding the perfect spot, the modern architecture, big windows, lots of natural light, neighbors that were, again, in line with the level of quality of design she was doing. She couldn't sign the lease. And so I'm going through a decision-making exercise with her. And what we uncover is that one of her core values was in opposition to the decision. And that was family. She had a 15-year-old daughter that she drove to school and picked up every day. And the location of her old office was minutes from the school. So it was very easy for her to do. The new office was about 20 minutes in the other direction. And she lives in the Bay Area.
Oh, that
so
could be an
like
hour.
Traffic. Exactly. Exactly. So as soon as we uncovered that, I said, so what do you want to do? She goes, I need to wait a year.
Yes.
Because I want to have that quality time with my daughter.
Right.
So
I love
that's
that.
another reason why understanding this is so important. So I want to give you a couple of things to look out for here as you start thinking about your values. The first is many of us hold on to values that aren't our own. Again, it comes from the place I talked about earlier that I was in, which is we listen to what people tell us we should be doing or what our values should be. And I want to tell you that words, and I know that you know this too, LuAnn, have power.
Yes.
And the word should, I want everyone to get rid of it, or at least notice when they're using it,
Right.
because all should is could with shame attached. And the energy of should, all it does is keep us small. So first point of advice, anytime you hear yourself saying the word should, flip it to could or want to. Whatever feels more natural to you, because the word should is limiting. It almost makes us feel like a victim. When we step into could, we step into possibility. When we step into want to, we step into desire and determination. And that's the place that we want to be creating from, right?
It's almost like what I always say on the show, know what you will and what you will not do.
Exactly. I mean, and it happens to me too. Like, and this is something that I try to be really aware of myself because listen, I want to practice what I preach. So whenever I find myself, like I love to read. I mean, I read every business book there is, like books about messaging. I love Brene Brown and leadership. So it books come up a lot in my sessions with clients. Okay. So I had one client that was like, you really should start a book club. And I went, maybe I should start a book club. Maybe I should start. And then I went, wait a minute. I'm using the word should. I don't really want to start a book club. Right. What do I want? So what is the want to in this? Because there's something I want to do. There's something I want to share. But what does that look like for me?
Good example. And that is also, I have one of my chairman of the board coaching clients, and she'll know exactly who she is. If I say to her almost every session, you're capable of anything you put your mind to. We just got to like her biggest obstacle is that she is so capable of almost any big initiative that she would put her mind to. She really is. And it's literally, I have spent almost 11 months at this point, just keep wrestling her back to what does she want to do? Not what can you do? What should you do for this person or that person or for the brand or for this? What do you want to do? Because I know that when you are able to do a lot of things, sometimes the hardest thing is to focus on the thing that you really want to do that will make you happy doing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes it takes a while to really like dig in and uncover what that is.
It does. Sometimes it takes 11 months.
Right. So that's why we need our values, right? To give us some clues. So I want to sort of steer us back in that direction to give you guys, some tools on how to uncover those. Because here is the thing too. When our values are being honored, things are going well for us. When things aren't going so well, it's an indicator that our core values are not being honored. Right? So that's something to look out for. So another way that we can really sort of hone in on, okay, what are the values that matter most to me? If you take the time to think back to a time in your career where you were truly enjoying what you were doing and the manner in which you were doing it, what values were being honored then?
That's something you got to sit with, right? You really have to sit with it.
So that's one way to look at it. Then some people will say to me, well, I don't know. There hasn't been a time where I felt like everything was going well for me. Well, the other way to look at this is that you can think about a challenging time and really try to see what values were being challenged or were missing.
And so when you do this, the reality is that I'm sure you work with and coach people that have the moment that you had where you looked back and you said, yeah, during that 10-year period, I was doing the things that I thought I was supposed to do because that's what success was defined as by others, by my parents and outside forces, right? It was to be the person who had a regular job and then had the job that was attached with the sales, which made the income and like all the other things, no risk as being creative, right? But sometimes now, designers, do you ever work with a designer that literally says this is the moment, or that person doesn't come for coaching? But I feel like there's still an opportunity to coach somebody that says this is the moment, this is the job, this is the career, this is what I like, but how do I step into it more fully? How do I express it? How do I I'm going to use the word maximize or leverage, which sounds totally inconsistent with, such a feel good conversation, but it's the reality of it, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting because I do. And what I have found, especially in the last 7 months, is that I've had a few designers coming to me saying, I'm not quitting design, but I need to figure out a way to implement my values into my work because they currently are not. Mm. Can you help me do that? Mm. I mean, that's so it's like coming to me saying, I want to make a shift, knowing they want to make a shift in their messaging because they also want to see a shift in the client that they're attracting. And by the way, if you're not attracting the kind of client that you really want, you have a messaging problem. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So need to look at that. So I have seen that really happen quite a few times over the past, 7 months where I have these clients coming to me. They know what the values are. They just haven't figured out how to use them. Mm. They haven't really thought about what do these mean to me? Okay. Which is the next step of the exercise. Really. It's like once you define, I typically will, and I'm happy to provide this. I don't know if you do show notes that people can access a worksheet, but I'm happy to have, I have a exercise all typed out that I can send to you for your listeners to access. And it gives you a list because a lot of times it's like, oh God, I don't know. But looking at a list kind of will help us. Oh yeah, this is the one, here are the top 10, right? Just to kind of get your brain going in the right direction. And what I like to do is I ask them to pick the top 10. And then I really want them to narrow their top 10 down into 5. And the question that I ask them, I will compare each value to the other. And I will ask them the question, if you could only experience or cultivate one of these values in the coming year, which would you choose? So let's just say one of them was, ease. Another one is self-expression, right? So I say, okay, let's look at ease versus self-expression. If you can only cultivate or experience one in the coming year, which would you choose? And we go through that exercise for all 10. And then we narrow the 10 down into their top 5. Okay. So now they have their top 5 values that they're really going to focus on in the coming year. And then I ask them to define what those values mean to them, because what self-expression means to me might be something completely different from what it means to you. Right. So they need to have that clarity. And by writing this out, by the way, and having it, in a place that's accessible, this is something you can share with your employees, your new hires, so they understand how it is that you expect them to operate, as a brand ambassador, right? As they communicate with your clients. So I just think understanding your values is probably one of the core pieces to building a very strong foundation for your brand.
And the idea is that there isn't a right or a wrong. It's what's real and true for each of us individually. There's no positive or negative associated with ease or self-expression, right? It's just exactly what does it mean for you and which one do you prefer if you have to pick one or the other. You're just getting yourself an elimination process, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And by asking that question, it kind of puts your mind in a place, because how often does somebody ask you that question?
Right. Right. It's
I had
not
never been
normal
asked that question
conversation.
before.
No.
Right. So it kind of, instead of just saying, hey, pick your top five, going through and looking at the top 10 and then really doing that process of editing down by asking that question, it makes people look at things differently and their values differently.
Mm-hmm.
And really makes them look at, okay, yes, what is it in the coming year that I really want to experience? And again, then that becomes your roadmap.
Right. So now that's exactly what I was going to say next. So now we have ourselves narrowed down to the top 5 things that resonate with us and feel like this is what I want to lean into. This is how I want to be. I want to think. I want to function. I want to project. And now since you have asked us each to write what each of these words means to us, now is this the next step where you start to run that through your brand messaging, your conversations with your clients, maybe your Instagram post, maybe some website copy, because if this is what really feels good to you, you want to kind of put it out there so that other people that it resonates with, they latch onto it? Or is there a step in between that, Ginna?
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. I'll give you an example. I was doing this exercise with a client, and we were talking about the value of beauty, okay, and what that meant to her, okay. And she started talking to me about the home that she created for her son as a single mom when he was growing up, and how important it was for her to create a space that was not only beautiful but welcoming. She wanted him and his friends to always feel welcome, to always feel special, and she would do that in so many different ways by, cooking, by, serving things not on a plastic plate, by doing things that, again, made them feel special and welcome. And so she tells me the story, and then she starts to tell me how, it's still the same. My family, when we have holidays, they want to come to my house because of the environment that I create. And so, and how I make people feel special, you know. So I was like, whoa, okay, this is a really serious messaging thing that you need to lean into. Because here's the thing, every designer at a certain level has beautiful pictures. Right.
Right.
And most designers, now there are a handful of designers out there that are known for an iconic look, right?
Right.
That doesn't change. But most designers work in a collaborative nature, with their clients, based on the architecture and based on the client's needs and the look that they're going for. So typically their projects will range from looking a little bit more traditional or transitional into modern. The one thing that you have to differentiate you is the way you package those images. So I'm thinking about Instagram, for example.
Right.
And if you're going to post an image of a beautiful living room or a beautiful dining room, for this particular designer, I would advise her to, again, lean into this value of making people feel special. That's what beauty meant to her. And how she does that through interiors. Does that make sense?
It does. And so I'm thinking about, it's funny because I'm not sure how she expressed it, but there's a designer here in New Jersey, and I've known her for many years, and we're very glad to do her work. And one time I went to her home to do something for her at her home. And of course, she is at the same time one of those lovely ladies who will always be dressed really nice, but is also very comfortable in her skin and doesn't feel like affected, right? Like you don't feel like, okay, I've been comfortable in front of you, right? But even when she's got jeans and, then it's a poncho and it's a little hat. Like there's always something that's very stylish about her, right? And I've always noticed that about her. And it's effortless because it's truly who she is. She enjoys getting up and putting on a complete outfit every day. So I know this about her for many years. Now it's time to come and do something at her home. And we're chit-chatting and we're taking care of the thing and blah, blah, blah. And I go to come around the corner to leave. And she says to me, oh, you want to have a glass of water, a cup of coffee before you leave or whatever. And I go into the kitchen and she has the table set for 2 people with napkin holders, 2 or 3 knives, the water glass, the wine glass, like the great, layers of dishes, like as if it was set for a photo shoot, quite frankly, right? And but it was the only table in the room. So I said to her, I'm teasing her. I said, you got a photo shoot coming today? Like, what's going on? And she goes, and she just literally blank stared at me. And I said, the table. And she goes, oh, no, I just set the table for dinner before our meeting, so it was done. And I was like, that's dinner for table for you and your husband? She's like, oh, yeah, I always do, that every night. She goes, I did it ever since my children were little. It's just, isn't it nice to treat yourself nice and be special? And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, we're lucky if we get food in my house. That's how it is. I treat you special. I'm going to treat you so special. I'll sit next to you at the restaurant. You know what I'm saying? But it was just what my point is, too, interestingly, is that when I left, I thought about it. It is literally everything about her, like the right earrings with the right shoes, and if the little hat makes the outfit perfect, and it's the right tablecloth with the right napkin holder, and it's just who she is. Do you know what I'm saying? And what you're saying is when you discover that, then lead with that in your marketing and all of that, because, she obviously would feel so much happier working with clients that value those same things, those civilities,
exactly.
Right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so that's why it's so important, right, to reveal those things through your marketing, to talk about the things that are important to you. Because then you will attract the clients that are going to value the things that you value.
So everybody listening has got to figure out what it is about them that they should reveal, right?
Correct. There's a quote by Dolly Parton that I love that goes, know who you are and do that on purpose.
That's a good line. Right?
That's really what it's about. Mm-hmm. It's like really understanding who you are, integrating who you are into the work you do. And when you do that, you naturally stand out. Mm-hmm. You don't have to try. Mm-hmm. You just do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's true. It's, we don't need to be right for everybody. We just need to be right because for the people that you're right for, it's so good for them too.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this made me think of another reason why understanding your values is really important. Because one of the things I hear so often from designers is that self-promotion feels icky. They hate doing it. They hate social media. They hate pitching to magazines. It just all feels so icky to them. Okay. So that ickiness, that feeling comes from approaching your marketing, approaching your PR, approaching your business development from a place of trying to get something.
As opposed to a place of trying to give something, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So again, if you can lean into your values and the value of the work that you do. So again, if we go back to the examples that we were talking about, your friend, my client, who sound very much the same, by the way.
Exactly.
They're very similar. Love to entertain, have all the dishes, all that. If we go back to that example, it's like, think about what is it that your client is left with, when you finish the project, what are they going to be living with? And it's not. So many people think that design is just about picking pretty pieces of furniture. I don't believe that's what it is.
No.
I believe it's about creating a lifestyle. And again, you as a designer, there's so many different designers out there. There are designers like the one that you've described who loves the fancy dishes and making people feel special. And then there are other designers that talk about an ease of living.
Right.
That want beauty, but they want things to not cause problems. They want to make sure they're not choosing materials that are going to be difficult to care for or too expensive, so it's all about leaning into the value that you provide. And if you can market yourself from that place, it will not feel icky.
No, I talk about it whenever time the topic comes up on the show about sales and how to be a good salesperson. You're a salesperson, Ginna. You've had a career in it, and of course, I can hear it in the way you present your ideas and so forth. But the idea is that the best salesperson in the world is uncovering the win for the other person. That's the sale. It's figuring out what the other person really needs, wants, will fulfill them, blah blah blah, and providing it for them. So if you can figure out exactly your superpower and your genius and the thing that you do in interior design that is different than a colleague and has nothing to do with your ability to pick the sofa scale, then there's somebody out there that when you put that message to them, it's not going to be icky. It's going to be like, oh my goodness, there you are. Yay. Right?
Oh, yeah. Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I use an exaggerated example, when I talk to designers about this, of saying, hey, look, if you had the cure for the coronavirus, would you be sitting at home keeping it to yourself?
Right.
No.
Right.
So you need to believe in the value of your work that much, that you are, you're ready to shout from, the rooftops and post
so
about
good.
it a million times. Call your friends. I got it. I got the cure.
That's it. That's so good. That's so good, Ginna. It's so good. That's that win-win. This is, it's what, I've said it a lot of times. It's like, this is the solution for you. I can't wait to share it with you. Not, here's what I want you to buy from me to make my life happy, better, easier. It's like, no, I got to ask you 1,000 questions to figure out what I can do for you. Right?
Right.
So good. So good.
Right.
So good. And so the thing is that, so the pain point that you uncover a lot is that lack of being able to step into a place where you make the transformation in your mind to you're providing value, and as opposed to, searching and, hunting for sales, right? I don't know how else to describe it.
Right.
Are there other pain points that, are right at the top of your head that you're saying, yes, this often comes up as well when I'm working with designers, that, it is a kind of a, shared universal type thing with us as creatives?
Yeah. So the first thing that's coming to mind is, again, it's the fear around showing who you are through your work. Again, and I'm just flashing back to like Instagram posts that I look at, right? Of, designers, and I'm not talking about Kelly Wearstler. Kelly Wearstler can post whatever she wants and be like Monday mood. That's cool. That works.
Right.
If you're a designer that's trying to build your business and you're posting an image and all you're saying is Monday mood, that tells me nothing about you. That gives me no insight into who you are, what it might be like to work with you, or what is important to you. What are you going to focus on with me, if I were to hire you? So and again, I think it goes back to that place of fear, because I see it, all over. Even like if you think about how many websites you go to, and let's just talk about we could just talk about furniture brands for a minute. How many websites do you go to? And if you covered up the logo, would have no idea. You could be on one of 15 websites. They all look the same.
Right.
Or, a lot of times I'll look at people's bios and I'm like, I fall asleep after the second sentence because they're all the same.
On the dunes and the beaches that inspire me. Don't get me started.
So it's like, again, it goes back to that idea of packaging, and how are you going to stand out? And another pitfall I see some designers fall into is, a lot of designers start their career working for someone else, right? And, the person that they work for a lot of times becomes their mentor. And typically they will come out of that relationship with a very similar look, to their mentor. And will use very similar languaging, or I'll call it packaging, as their mentor. That doesn't help them stand out. But it's like they look to that person and go, well, that's how Kelly Wearstler does it.
And, yeah, right. And she's successful.
Yeah. But it's the thing. But Kelly Wearstler is being Kelly Wearstler. That's why she's so successful.
Right.
So the pitfall of getting through your fear and really being honest with yourself am I making this decision from fear, or am I making it based in, my mission, vision, and values? Because listen, 99.9% of people, when faced with stress, their default is anxiety, fear, overwhelm. It's completely natural.
Right, right.
So whenever you feel that you're in that place, I love this. This is like a magical question to ask yourself. Listen, am I in this place? Am I in this place of overwhelmed fear and anxiety because I chose it and it's serving me in some way? Or am I here because it's my default and just what I'm used to? Because if I'm here by default, I can make another choice. I don't have to be afraid to show who I am. I can choose to really show the world what I'm capable of. And listen, I know it's scary because it's been scary for me. I mean, I remember when I transitioned from doing my consulting work to my coaching work, my messaging changed dramatically. I was scared.
Yes.
I thought people were going to think I'd lost my mind.
Right.
But here's the secret. The more you do it, the more you practice it, the less scary it becomes.
Because you're stepping into it, right? Because you're stepping into what's really true to you.
Right. It will be scary in the beginning. Brene Brown, I think I mentioned her earlier, just came out with a new podcast that's around her book, Dare to Lead. And she talks about how all of the great transformative leaders in the world experience fear and courage simultaneously.
That's powerful.
So it's okay if you're afraid.
Right.
You can be brave at the same time.
Right. Well, I mean, first of all, if you were never afraid, are you really engaged? Right? Can you really be engaged if you don't also acknowledge that there's fear? Because if you're not afraid, I think you just, I don't know that you're actually, popping on all cylinders, right? I mean, it's like, it's just the other side of things, but it's to your point of in the fear can come that catalyst, can come that challenge, can come that decision, can come that standing in and standing up and saying, okay, this is what's going to come next, right?
Right.
It's how long do you sit in the fear? I guess that's what it is, right? Some people will sit in the fear longer than they should and pass the opportunities and the way to create their business goes by, as opposed to accepting it, analyzing it, stepping into it, and figuring a way through it.
Right. One of the things that the pandemic has taught me, and it was fascinating to me. When the pandemic first hit and the shutdown started, I had a few both clients and friends, right, who normally are cool as cucumbers. I've never seen them lose it. They're like always just like they've got it all together. They're calm. As soon as the pandemic hit, it was like anxiety central. Okay. But here's the really interesting part. I had a couple of friends and clients who normally are anxiety central, like, oh my God, where's the next client coming from? And if I don't get a client, I'm going to be, I'm going to be out on the street and the sky is falling. And all of a sudden, pandemic hits, they are cool as cucumbers.
What do you think that is?
And I was like, so I asked them, I was like, I got to understand what's going on here. So I asked them, two different people I asked this question, and they both said to me, well, Ginna, now everyone feels the way I do all the time, and I know that I am not alone.
So that was the answer of the people who were previously usually anxiety, and now we're just like, I've got this.
Yeah.
And how about,
so
did
there
you
is
ask
something to, oh, I did. And I did. And I think for the people who are now anxiety, they didn't know how to deal with it.
They didn't have control.
They are
probably
normally calm.
Yeah, they felt like they probably, my guess is, felt like they mistakenly felt like they had a measure of control over their life, their business, their world. And when they realized they didn't, it was like, oh, wait a minute, the gig's up. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So but my real takeaway from that is there is so much good that can be done from sharing with people your struggles,
Yes.
because then everyone, people can look up and go, oh my God, like I feel that I'm not the only one. Wow, I feel so much better. I'm not the only one who feels like a phony, or they're just making this up as they go along.
I
You
know.
feel like that too? Oh my God, that's great.
Ginna, it's so true. Your message there is so loud and clear to me. I'm going to share a personal story. My one daughter is getting ready to launch her own podcast. It's coming out in 2021.
Oh, cool.
Yes, and it's going to be called Sass Says: The Therapy Sessions I Didn't Know I Needed. And what she and we, all of us, her people who love her, have learned is that she has experienced postpartum depression with both of her children. And so,
Wow.
yeah, so her first child will be 3 in January of 2021, and her second child was born a month before COVID hit.
Oh, wow.
And then here she is on lockdown. And we don't, any of us know that she's in postpartum depression. We don't even know that she was in it the first time, and I can't say that I didn't know that something was off with her, right? I'm not like asleep at the wheel, but I also, from a personal standpoint, just so you know, there's a thing in our world. It's called, okay, that's Lou mode, right? Lou mode. Okay, she's just gonna go get it done. And so I'm very aware not to apply Lou mode to my daughters, because just because I could stand up and do it and get it done and do 16 things at the same time, I recognize that, not everybody can, and not everybody wants to, and not everybody needs to, and not everybody should. And so when she was not bouncing back and doing things, I'm like, oh, I went back to work when she was 6 weeks old. And, at 6 months old, I don't think the baby had been out of the house twice because she just was like, I can't do this today. And the thing was, I was just in this, like, don't push her. She's doing motherhood the way she's doing it. Well, but here was the big aha, because COVID came crashing down. Now newborn. Now she's isolated. Now she's got 2 kids and, all of this going on, and no support, no like me popping in once or twice a week to do bath time with the older one and blah, blah, blah. And to your point, and this is why I'm sharing this publicly, is because when she started to share more and more and more and started to think about it more and more and more, then she started to talk about it. And not only was it easier for her, for people like me who are super close to her, to help her and reach out and say, okay, maybe we got to look at this. But the more significant thing that happened to her, Ginna, was that when she started to follow certain people on Instagram, certain therapists, certain influencers that were actively talking about postpartum depression and other layers of mental illness and mental disease,
Yeah.
she literally was finding in the comments her friends that she knew from high school and college. And she was like, wait, like there was one time, this epiphany moment where somebody that she knew was one of her high school friends commented on a post, I know I've experienced postpartum depression too. It's so difficult. It's so isolating. And she was like, whoa. And to your point, once she knew that there were other people that were all smiling, happy-go-lucky, we're all good, the babies are good, it was like, wow, we can talk about it. We can help each other. There's other people that are going through this. And then it just kept taking off from there. And she's just like, more and more people. And she was like, I have to do this. I have to be one of the people that says it's okay to talk about this. Isn't that crazy?
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. And so it's like your experience with your clients that you said, they were like, now everybody knows how I feel and I don't feel alone. It just makes you feel better to know that you're not nuts, right? Like
Correct.
you're normal. You have fears and you actually have hormonal, well, now those cases of those young women, it's the hormonal changes and stuff. But for us as business owners, yeah, I don't care who you are. There's fear in everything we do. It's to your point, though, if you can figure out your values and figure out what's important to you and figure out the direction that you really want to go in a quiet moment and you know it's a real thing, then that's your guidepost for making those decisions every day, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it kind of keeps you, it just keeps you steady. So like, I mean, I call it creating your foundation for your business for a reason. And if you think about, the metaphor of what a foundation is for a building, you cannot build a building without a foundation.
Right.
It's crucial regardless. But if you have a crappy, like, built foundation for a building or a home, and a hurricane hits or an earthquake comes, what's going to happen?
Right.
That thing is going to collapse.
Right.
So again, I believe the same thing is true for your business. You have to have that solid foundation to both weather the storms, but also, as you said, kind of keep you on track so you're not falling into the shiny carrot syndrome.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. There has to be goalposts and guideposts so that you can stay on, because either your fear holds you back or the shiny things attract you. You really have to like I say, know what you will do and what you will not do, and then just make your plan according to that. So, but it takes sometimes it's okay if it takes help and it takes advice and it takes working with other people, because, there aren't, necessarily, it's not necessary. And it's not even something that necessarily our parents teach us, but to your point, sometimes your parents inadvertently teach you the opposite way, that is not good for you. That you're doing everything to in her mind to put you on a right path, but you just have to come to the exploration and not be afraid of what you're going to find in yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm so glad you said it takes time, because clarity does take time. And it's something you don't want to rush through.
No.
Especially when you're thinking about, again, building that solid foundation.
Exactly. So, Ginna, you work with designers doing this. Tell us the different ways that they can work with you if they're interested in investing in themselves and their business to do this work.
Yeah. So I work in two different ways. I work both one-on-one with clients, and then I also work in groups. And we're getting ready to launch a new program called Transform Your Business and Create a Foundation for Your Brand in January. And that will be a 3-month group course.
Wow.
And again, we're going to dive into all this information. And not only that, the thing that'll be I'm really excited about the program is I've teamed up with a digital marketing expert. Her name is Erica Sorit. And so she's going to then we're going to do all the excavating work in the coaching portion of the program. And then she's going to help with the implementation and actually show, how do you now take this material and put it into a year's worth of social media content.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the yin and the yang. It's the woo-woo with
Exactly.
the business.
Exactly.
That's pretty clever, Ginna. That's very clever. I love that. Actionable, right? So it's like, do the work, get some clarity, and then figure out how to put it into motion to benefit your business and help you attract that ideal client.
Exactly.
Love it. All right. And so where do they go to find out about that?
So it's on my website at gccollaborative.com. I'm also, I post about it on Instagram at Ginna Christensen. And also on my Instagram, I do offer a lot of tips and tricks on my feed, as well as my newsletter, which you could sign up for on my website as well. So there are lots of free tools, as well as the options of working in a group or one-on-one.
Very exciting. Thank you so much. What a great conversation. So many good things to come that came out of this conversation, and you get a hashtag smart lady, Ginna. That's what I got to say.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, it's such an honor to be a part of this. I mean, you are such a powerhouse in the industry. And so, I'm just honored to be a part of this conversation with you.
I'm glad you're part of us now, too. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
It is not possible for me to overstate the importance of staying true to your values in your business. What Ginna talked about today, uncovering those values, incorporating them into your business, making sure that you are aligned with what is really important to you, this is something that we all really have to take the time to be aware of for ourselves. If you aren't clear about who you are and what matters to you, it's so easy. It's in fact too easy to lose your way. It's too easy to make a compromise here or take on a client there that doesn't resonate with those values of yours. It's too easy to cut a corner here or there until you've lost sight of the integrity that you wanted to build your business on in the first place. But when you do define them, when you take the time to go down through the process to identify them, name them, write them down, you can own them. And once you own them and commit to them, then it's much easier to stand strong in your beliefs, to stand strong in what matters to you and what you want your business to represent. That's that know what you will do and what you will not do that I'm always talking to you about. That's what that represents right in there. You figure it out first. So in the moment, when things happen, you're not saying, what should I do? You just go right against your barometer. Is this something I believe in? Is this something that matters to me? Is this something that represents or is representing the way I want to be, right? Now, Ginna offered us an outstanding goodie for today's episode, a list of values and a guideline for identifying yours. You can find that at LuAnnNigara.com/goodies. I really encourage you to go do this to get clear and concrete on what your values are so you can make sure that your business is aligned with them. And hearing Ginna tell her story about her mom making her living as a dancer and then the conversation she had with Ginna was just heartbreaking. Wasn't it? On the one hand, we can understand that her mom was looking out for her, right? She didn't want that hard life. On the other hand, she was just a little girl. And that one moment carried with her for far too long, turning her away from what she wanted to do and be in life because she kept trying to be and do what she thought she should be, right? And that reminds me of the episode with Angela Kristen Taylor. Angela is a productivity coach, but her belief is that when someone has an issue with productivity, it always stems from a sort of unresolved trauma or issue, even something all the way back in our childhood. When Angela was on the show, she shared some examples of that, of people carrying those little moments into their lives and letting it hold them back. Okay. It's so much about acknowledgement and awareness. And it just, doesn't it resonate? If you heard that show, doesn't it resonate exactly with what Ginna was talking about today? Right. So, but when we uncover it and we face it and we look at it and we take it apart for what it is, then its hold on us can go, right? Because then we can choose to not let it define us when we become aware of it, right? And so if this resonates with you, if this is all like, I need more of this, go back and listen to Angela's episode number 613 if you missed it, all right? Now, the other thing is that I wanted to talk about this idea that Ginna pointed out about the importance of sharing your struggles. Look, mental health issues are not new to 2020, but I think we'd be kidding ourselves if we didn't acknowledge that more of us are struggling now than ever. And as Ginna points out, there's something really great that comes when those who are suffering choose to open up and share that with the world, because that's something powerful happens when people hear that they're not alone. That's a powerful moment for all of us, right? And I told you about the personal story of my daughter, Christy, who has been going through this the last couple of years as raising children, and her podcast is coming out because she feels so strongly about doing just what Ginna is saying, talking about it, sharing her experience, having interviews, and letting other people share their experience so that more people can say, I'm not alone. So if you are interested in knowing when she launches the podcast, it'll come sometime Q1 in 2021. Go to sasssays.com and put your name on the email list, and she will make sure to let you know that the podcast is launched. And I probably will let you know too. Just saying, right? Okay. Now, whatever you may be dealing with yourself right now, anxiety, depression, fear, feeling like you're not good enough, doubt with where you are in your life, in your business, you aren't alone, okay? Open up, share it with others so that you can heal yourself, and know that when you do that, you might be healing somebody else too. Okay. And if you listen to today's episode and you are ready to take that next step to do the work, to define your values and implement them into your business, then Ginna has a masterclass for you, right? She talked about it a little bit. It's called Transform Your Business. It's a 3-month group coaching course designed to help you transform your business so that you can stand out. Okay. What makes this course very unique and powerful, in my opinion, is how Ginna has partnered with a digital marketing expert to give you the support in implementing it, okay? This isn't one of those, let's just learn something new and never use it to our advantage type of courses. No. Ginna has designed this so that you can come away with some real momentum, all right? Learn more at gccollaborative.com. gccollaborative.com. Sounds like an awesome way to start 2021 to me. Okay. Before I go, I want to take a moment to thank our show sponsor, Kravet. Industry leader in the trade home furnishings industry, right? Kravet has been here for us in these challenging times. They've been around for 102 years, and they want you to know you can trust them to securely process your orders, keep your deposits safe, and make sure that your delivery's on time. Take advantage of Kravet's extensive digital tools, and you can set up a virtual appointment with your local sales rep. Just log on to kravet.com. Okay? Now, just as Ginna pointed out today, your business has to run on your values. If you want to stand out, to become the go-to, to grow and scale your business, you have to get clear on what those are. You have to choose not to live in fear. You have to push through to come out of your fears stronger and more aligned and more sure of yourself than before. All right? Decide not to live in fear in 2021. Decide to live in your values. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.